Hello and welcome back, or welcome to for the first time to the Movie Bros podcast. This is episode 22 of 22. So if you are new, there's 21 episodes that may or may not be your cup of tea. Check those out. Just as a quick summary, folks, this is where Hayden and I, this is Duncan speaking, watch a movie, banter, ramble, debate, discuss all those buzzwords about that movie, and then we post it for you fine folk to listen to. Usually range from anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour or so, and the movies kind of are all over the place. If you look backwards, we've covered everything from, Logan Lucky to National Treasure to, help me out here, Hayden. What else have we done? I'm blanking.
Well, we've also done You just mentioned National Treasure. I meant to say
I
Treasure
did, yeah.
Planet.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Well,
Treasure Planet.
similar words, similar words. Treasure Planet. Um, there's 20 of them, so you guys can definitely go look. I can't.
You can
I,
tell.
I
Oh, The
don't know,
Meg,
man. It's a lot of
Three
episodes.
Billboards,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
The Iron Claw. Yeah. Either way, there's lots for you folks to look through.
Yes.
With that in mind, if you like this, tell us. If you don't like this, tell us. If you haven't seen the movie we talk about, watch that movie, form your own opinions, and then tell us. You can reach out via Spotify comments. You can also reach us on Instagram at @themovie_bros. We love to kind of start a conversation any which way. What
Uh,
else am I missing, Hayden?
we'd
Feel
love
like
some
I'm.
movie suggestions. We do have our
Oh
own
yeah.
list that we have a little bit of a software that will randomly pick a title for us, but if you have suggestions that you want to hear our opinions on, we will gladly move that to the front of a line because that's always more interesting.
And if you caught it last week, we did do a kind of a special feature holiday episode as a bonus for Halloween, where we did two movies that we watched that we each found our favorite kind of spooky, scary vibe. We will probably continue doing that for at least till the end of the year, and we might start doing that through 2025. So kind of look for those. Those will be bonus episodes.
uh just as a clarification, we're not going to do horror movies every time.
Dear God, no.
It's going to be, it's going to be mixed up. We're going to, we're doing some Christmas stuff, maybe some Valentine's Day stuff, whatever it may be. It's not always going to be horror movies because while I may enjoy that a lot, you don't, and that's okay. And I'm not going
There's
to
only
make you
so
do
many Scooby
that.
Doo movies.
I genuinely wish there was more.
I think they have enough. The amount of like different television versions of Scooby Doo, insane.
Yes, there is a ton of animated Scooby Doo movies. I don't know, for something that was as perfectly casted as those movies were, like the live action ones, I would love them to make more.
Now that we've kind of got a rough rundown of what this podcast is, so you kind of know who we are, uh, let's talk about our. I think our next section is just the movie that we're talking about, which is Evil Dead Rise. Hayden, why don't you give us some
Yes, yes,
fast film
yes.
facts?
All right, let's do fast film facts, where I essentially give you some film facts, as the title states. We might not keep that in. All right. So as I say, this is Evil Dead Rise. This came out last year in 2023. It's directed and written by Lee Cronin, and I quickly looked up what else he had done. This is, for all intents and purposes, his directorial debut. He's done a whole lot of other like short movies, but those, I don't know if I would always count them. Music here is by Stephen McKeon, another name I didn't recognize, but I enjoyed the music in this. I thought it was decent. Cinematography is by David Garbett. This stars Lily Sullivan, Alyssa Sutherland, Gabrielle Eckos. Eckos? I don't know. It's up to interpretation, that name. Morgan Davies and Nell Fisher.
Did you reckon? I mean, I was trying to place it. I don't think I knew anyone from anything.
I didn't either, and I kind of enjoyed that. It made it easier to believe them as their characters if I didn't, constantly have in the back of my mind that, oh, I recognize this person from such and such.
Fair. I think it's. Yeah, I don't know. I get both sides because sometimes like, oh, I kind of want like someone who has quote unquote like acting chops, but at the same time, I do like when they did the first Thor movie. I appreciate that they like it was all new
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel
Well,
split on that.
it's kind of like the Harry Potter movies.
Mhm.
You got
Mhm.
the child actors, and they never switch them out. But then you also had people like not Domhnall Gleeson. What's his dad's name? The guy
Brendan.
from Banshees of Inisherin. Yes, Banshees of Inisherin. Brendan Gleeson showing up, and he's a recognizable face. So I think it could have been done either way, but I think this movie is definitely helped by the fact that everyone's kind of an unknown. That's kind of all I
And you've
had down
seen
for
some of the
facts.
other nah, hold on. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Sorry. Continue your fast film facts.
I don't know, and that's kind of all I had for fast facts. So as we did last time, why don't we both give our ratings for this, and then we can kind of dive into why.
Okay. I think I started first last time, so after you.
You did. Um, I'm a big fan of the Evil Dead franchise, just in general. I really, really, really enjoyed this. This for me is a solid 4.5 out of 5. It is everything I wanted it to be. There's only a few pacing issues that I had, but everything else, I absolutely loved this.
That was my question that I was about to ask. I was like, I think you've seen at least some of the other, if not all the other, like parts of this, but this is the only one that is not by Sam Raimi, right? Or the one before.
So I have seen all of the Evil Dead franchise. I like the majority of them. There's a couple that I don't really care about. So the Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness are all Sam Raimi movies. Evil Dead in 2013 and now this movie are not Sam Raimi productions, although he's been on as a producer in both of these movies. Evil Dead 2013, absolutely love that movie too. It's a Fede Alvarez movie who would go on to make this year's Alien Romulus.
Okay. I was just curious because I was like, I wonder if it's and that's maybe why I'm curious with my rating because maybe it's because I need more of the I don't want to say
So,
backstory, but the backstory.
so I actually went ahead and I rewatched Evil Dead 2013 because I own a copy of it. It's one of my favorite movies. I love it a lot because I thought, okay, this might kind of dovetail more into that one because that one's also a lot more serious because the Sam Raimi ones are very silly. There's lots of jokes. Army of Darkness, the third one, is arguably a comedy the entire way through. There's like goofy skeletons and a
See, that's
lot of
I would kind
silly
of
stuff.
I want that because this there are several points in this where I was like, oh, it's like these are like kind of bad one-liners, but this probably could be pretty funny in the right context, but it never felt that funny. I don't know.
I would enjoy watching Army of Darkness with you. That is a incredibly goofy bad movie. I actually watched it Halloween because the Olympia Film Society was having a reshowing of it at their very nice theater.
Yeah, but especially with like a in-person kind of movie, I bet that was probably pretty fun.
Oh yeah, there was a good crowd there. Lots of people were laughing the entire movie. It was a good time. Less laughter in this.
Yeah. So Hayden and I have discussed this before, but obviously, if you listen to last week's podcast, there are lots of movies that we agree on, and occasionally there are movies that we do not agree on. Hey, it's bound to happen, and it's probably healthy for it to happen.
Back to back
Um,
disagreement episodes.
Not planned.
I feel.
Either way, so Hayden gave this a 4.5 out of 5. I gave this a 1.5 out of 5. Not like the worst thing I've ever seen by a far margin,
This is
but it
definitely
was
not your bag at all. I was
a
absolutely going
a
in that.
it's not my bag, but there were I mean we'll get into it, but yeah, I think I have a predisposition opinion on these kind of movies, and then I only look for potentially things that validate that opinion, and maybe I can be proven wrong through a discussion. That's fine,
I mean,
but
maybe.
yeah, there are some things that I take issue with. So
Um
now that we know now that we know where we stand,
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Um so for the audience, I quite literally just finished watching this. So a lot of my stuff is just kind of stream of consciousness stuff that I had while watching in real time. So why don't you give me your rundown first, and then we can maybe I'll just interject some stuff.
okay. I will preface it is because I was not such a fan of this. it was really hard for me to like, it's not a long movie, it was hard for me to finish this. Like, it was hard to stay, it was hard to stay tuned in, so starting at
So I
hold
I
on.
don't mean to I don't mean to interrupt you. Do you mind?
Go no, go ahead.
I think that's because there's very little character work in this, and I think you like watching, at the very least, dramas that are a lot more character driven. This is a lot
Yes, there
more
is dude,
situational driven.
the characters are so like, there is nothing there, dude. There is nothing.
And I agree, but that's not what this movie's about.
Well, sure, and again, I think that's what I like in a movie versus what this is, but I
Yeah,
obviously I found again, this is I'm just like these are my stream of consciousness thoughts
sure,
from the
sure.
beginning of the movie to the end. I found the lighting before they left the cabin, like the cinematography and everything was kind of really boring, but it felt like that was where I don't I don't know if I love the whole everything's in an apartment building. I kind of liked that it was at the cabin. It just felt more like classic horror to be at a cabin. Maybe that's just stereotypical, but
No,
I don't know.
um, so it's funny you say that. The reason that they did that at the cabin is that is a direct reference to the other Evil Dead movies because they all take place in the stereotypical cabin in the woods.
Okay, because I was like, this feels like where it should be, and then they're like, oh, like it almost felt like they like until the last like minute of the half of the movie where they like call back to the cabin and how they got there. The whole movie, I'm like, why did they even have that fucking cabin scene? Like that was such a fucking waste.
And so that's what knocks it down the half star for me because I agree that it doesn't need to be there. If anything,
Yeah, it
you
seemed kind of
use that
odd.
as
Yeah.
the opening scene for the next movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could have ended this movie by like leading up to the cabin and then start the next one at the cabin. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean,
Uh,
I get why it's in here, but I that's the main pacing problem for me is that we spend a good, I don't know, like 10 minutes of the movie on cabin stuff and we could have immediately just jumped in to Beth,
yes.
doing her whole pregnancy test thing. Like I much would have preferred that.
I know maybe it's part of the genre or maybe part of excuse me, part of this franchise, but the like I've written this several times and maybe different wording, but like the ridiculous gore,
Oh
I
yeah, it's part of the franchise.
well, it's I don't again, it's like I'm not really scared, but I'm also it's not that comical. And it felt like it couldn't maybe not decide, but like it didn't really land on in either like camp for me. That's why I think it was hard for me to either the characters were fairly thin, but I wasn't getting scared and I wasn't laughing either.
That's
I
fair. I mean,
did I did, however, I really actually liked maybe it's just the aesthetics, but I really liked the title card at the beginning.
oh, where she's like rising out of the water and then it like scrolls up on the skyline.
Yes, yes, I
That's
actually really liked
great.
that.
Like
Yes.
in the hypothetical reality where we cut all the cabin sequence out, I want there to way to have that still be the title card because that's fucking phenomenal looking.
Mhm.
I I
Uh,
I clearly, since I said that I love this a
sure,
lot,
sure,
um, I would disagree with you on the fact that it's scary. I think I would just say that obviously people are scared by different things, and
true.
I think that I find this movie. I think the violence in this movie is the scare for me. I don't know if I would rank it among like the most scary movies I've ever seen, and I would certainly not say it's the scariest in the franchise. I would say the 2013 version is still the scariest in my opinion. But
Hmm.
I think there's definitely like sequences in this where I had to pause and take like a lap around my room because I'm like, "Oh, this is making my fucking
Oh,
skin
okay,
crawl."
I mean, to agree with that, the bit with what's it called? The tattoo pen or whatever,
Oh,
like
fuck all of that.
yes, yes, yeah, well, no, like, that I get, but, the, like, chewing the guy's eye and then spitting it on the through the guy's throat,
Yeah,
I'm like, "Oh,
that was
alright."
weird.
No, I mean
That's the kind of like wacky horror stuff that appears in the Sam Raimi ones because that's definitely more of a Raimi kind of thing.
see, if it
But
was like that
because
the whole time, I would be like, "Hell yeah, this is fun."
yeah, see, that's also the tone issue. There is that that scene and then parts of the very end, I thought didn't fit the tone of the rest of the movie and maybe shouldn't have been in there. I don't think the whole, you know, she bites the guy's eye out and then they have like a comical like, opening of a cork sound and she spits it at someone. That took me out of the
Yeah.
moment really hard.
There was I mean, I think this goes hand in hand with the lack of character development, which again, for this kind of movie, I understand. But some of the writing choices on the lines, uh, "Mommy is with the maggots now." I was like, "Ugh, okay, all
Yeah,
right,
I mean, a- a- again, if you're unfamiliar with the series, that is
sure,
how
sure."
the other movies are. But I can see if you weren't prepared for that kind of dialogue, because that does kind of happen throughout this movie and the other ones. It does feel weird, but it's the kind of thing that I've come to enjoy in these movies, as that they have their own personality. They're a little bit wacky. They're a little bit scary. They're a lot of bit gory. They're
There was a
their
point where
own.
I
They're
there was a point
they
where I
they
audibly
are
laughed out
their
loud.
own thing.
Uh,
Yes.
there is a camera angle where, so the camera is basically sitting on the floor. In the foreground is the like baby head that's on a like shiv,
Yes.
and then like the daughter's behind. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous, dude. See, I think it's for me. Most of this movie is not that it's uh not. I think it's because it. Most of my issue with this movie is just because it doesn't feel like it's fitting in to any specific category that like my mind is thinking it should fit into. Like that moment where it's just clearly ridiculous. And then it also has this like crazy multi-body monster thing that's chasing them around a car. Like that part is like, oh, this is clearly supposed to be scary. I don't
So
know.
I 100% get where you're coming from. That I guess I'm just more used to this series quirks and its tone, that those moments didn't take me out of it. If anything, I like I say, I really enjoy this series. Is it's not afraid to be silly sometimes, and the whole baby head on a pike, that is definitely silly. And I think it would have done better if it had stuck its foot firmly in either camp, as we said earlier. Like I think if you're gonna have those bits in, you need to have more of them so they don't feel out of place, or you need to not have them at all. To only have
Hmm.
it show up like three different times, arguably throughout the movie, of the silliness, that part does feel non-committal to me. But to me, that does still land it very solidly in the horror genre.
I guess because again, you have experience with this franchise and I don't. If you looked at this on its own without the other, like again, if you were me who had only seen this, would you rate it as highly, not knowing the other ones are either more
Um,
serious or more comedy? If you just saw this,
if I didn't have pre-existing knowledge, I would probably still give this maybe a 3 out of 5.
okay.
Like I think there's still a lot to enjoy here, even if you're not a longtime fan. But
Once
it
they are
definitely helps.
once they are in the apartment building, I'd say like the lighting and such did get. I think the shots and everything did get better. I felt like when they were shooting at the cabin, it felt very kind of stale. But it
Yeah, I
did get
agree.
better. Uh, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the like shining moment where they open the elevator door and it's all the blood?
I literally have that written down. I really enjoyed the Shining callback with the elevator of blood. Yeah, I thought that was fun.
Uh, again, is it again? This is where my brain is like, is it fun or is it scary? Because like, it
It can be
definitely.
both.
I don't. Okay. All right. All right.
I don't know. So, do you believe that horror movies can't have fun?
No, no, they can definitely be fun, but I just as long if it's a horror movie that the purpose of the horror movie is to most likely scare you, if the fun detracts from the scare, then the fun maybe should not be in it? Or maybe at different points? I don't know what the right wording or whatever is,
Um,
but and also when the elevator door opened, I thought it'd be more of a like cascading. It was this almost like this like someone blew up a blood bomb and it like bursted out. It felt like uh Do you remember seeing Hansel and Gretel? Do you remember that?
Yes, that is not a good movie.
I mean, it's not a good movie. It's a very fun movie, and Gemma
Yes.
Arterton is an absolute babe in that.
Oh,
But,
yes, absolutely, but
yes.
it's not good.
Well, no, it's just like if I remember, granted, it's been like 15 years or whatever, but if I remember right, they use blood and like jelly gore and stuff very well comically in that movie.
Sure.
And there are some points in this where I was like, it's almost like they're doing that. But then sometimes they're like, oh, this is clearly a like the like when I don't remember the character's name. I don't even know if I learned any of the character's name except for like the main
No, I remember some of
pregnant
them.
chick. Either way, it's Beth and that's the only one I remember. Either way,
Well, there's Beth, there's, there's Bridget, there's
which
Cassie.
one's Bridget? Which one's Cat? See,
Bridget's okay, Cassie's like the 9-year-old.
okay.
Bridget's the the daughter with the shorter hair who ends up eating glass,
Hmm. Which,
and
yeah,
then
okay, all right,
there's Danny who initially plays the record.
got it. Okay, so
And then the mother's
the
name is Elle or Ellie,
when
Ellen.
when the tattooed face, shorter haired sister is attacking the blonde brother,
Yes.
uh, so first she stabs him in the arm or whatever, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
I think hold on, I think he lights her on fire, but then right before she lights her on fire, she literally stabs him like in the chest.
Yes.
And he's like standing there watching her burn, and I'm like, dude, you were stabbed in like the heart. None
He
of this should be happening at all.
so
I maybe again that's like the analytical
again,
side of me kicking in, but
horror movie logic.
sure.
Just you gotta keep in mind horror movie logic. But I would argue that he's not like standing up. He's like laying up, or he's like laying against
The stove, yes.
the stove, and then he's
Well,
thrown onto the floor later, and then dies in Beth's arms. So, eh, granted, if this was 100% realistic, he would probably be dead instantly.
sure,
But
or at least in shock or
for
loss of blood, or yes.
like implied drama's sake, it's better if he doesn't.
I think after watching this, the more and more I realize of the horror genre, which again is not obviously my favorite, it works best for me when it is grounded in maybe more. I don't even know what you'd quantify like midnight mass as, but
Um,
whatever the fuck that is, Jesus Christ, dude,
Also,
that is
fucking great show.
terrifying.
Yes. So,
There was never a point in that where I was like, oh, this is clearly not accurate. You know,
I'll just
like
have a guy with wings.
no, but like there was never like, oh, he did this, so they clearly must do this. Like I don't know. I think it's maybe because this kind of movie also has like a part slasher ish kind of vibe because it's obviously someone attacking someone else versus more like kind of
Mm,
creepy psychologically kind of vibe.
it's definitely more violent, gory. I think when I if I had to guess what you like horror wise, I think you like slower moving things. I think you like series more than movies because there's only so much like slow burn stuff you can do in a movie and have it not be boring in the horror genre.
Hold on, I'm quickly looking at my movies I've watched. I'm gonna go to horror and then do my highest rated first because I'm curious if there is a horror that I like. What's the like? Why did I like that and not this? Because obviously a lot of people. I mean, I think I googled, I was like, oh, like do people like this movie? And generally, most people loved this. You're
I
one of them.
So the way I would explain that is that I don't think a whole lot of people are going into this without seeing the other ones. I think this attracted people who were already fans of the movies, and so that's why it's rated highly. I think if a whole lot of fresh faces saw this, I don't know if it would be as highly rated because it is so within its own kind of genre.
And to answer your question, horror movies can go slow and still make it interesting. Because I'm looking at my list, like, oh,
Sure.
I liked like the original The Thing is a slow
I
pace. but that's
I
a
don't
great horror
know.
movie.
I remember that moving pretty quickly.
No, but I'm saying it's a horror movie that's still, like, it doesn't it's not like a thrash, like, someone's, like, chasing and it's I don't know, it feels like it takes its time, it feels like.
Yeah.
Or Nope, or The Lighthouse, Quiet Place. All of those feel like they I don't know, I feel like they always take their time.
So from that list, I would say if I had to, put it into words, I don't think you like gory horror movies where the gore
Also
is
fair.
the scare.
Yes, I 100% agree with that, and that's why I think this franchise may not be for me because I was like, "Oh, this movie is like 99% how much blood can we pump in?"
Well, actually, there was like a fun fact that the trivia I had for this was the director stated in an interview that 6,500 liters of fake blood were used for this movie.
Jesus.
Granted, a lot of that's to fill up the elevator, but
Still, yeah.
um, so you said you liked some of the lighting and the camera work in the apartment. What
Some
what
of
else
it,
did you
yeah.
like about it?
About the camera work or the movie itself, I mean?
Just in general.
Well, just like the bit where a lot of like, what you're seeing in the hallway is only from,
Oh, the fisheye
the,
lens.
like
Yeah.
yeah, the peephole, yeah.
I wrote that down too. That's a great bit of easy camera work where you could just have a one shot and have it still work very cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else for this movie. Again, because it's so not my thing, there are I mean, I tried not to tune out, but there are several points where I was like, I might go do something else. Like,
I
oh, I
mean,
might
to
go
be
throw some
fair,
clay or
I
yeah.
in the last episode for Comet, which was
I'm sure you were
absolutely
probably doing the
not
same
my
thing.
thing, I was skipping ahead at the ending scene where they were just sitting there and they were just doing a long shot of the two suns rising. I'm like, all right, we're gonna jump ahead 10 seconds. Nothing's
I
happening.
get
We're
it.
gonna jump
I mean,
ahead 10 seconds.
when it
Nothing's
was
happening.
when they were at the car in the garage, I was like, all right, let's skip a little bit. Is this monster even around? What the fuck are we doing here, guys?
Yeah. Again, that comes down to some of my pacing issues. I don't I like the end. I like the whole to make a reference to what you just mentioned, the thing. I like the whole, body horror thing where it's got a bunch of arms and faces sticking out all over the place. That to me feels very John Carpenter-ish. But I think that after such like a high point of the like rushing to get into the elevator and then trying to get in the car and run out of there, we then stop and try to build tension up again instead of just paying off what we've already done. I would have preferred if that moved a little bit quicker and we got towards the wood chipper quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember which scenes I'm specifically mentioning, but there was a point where I said seams do not seem to flow together nicely. Because yeah, there was a couple points like that where it would build traction and then stop, and then build traction and then stop.
Um, I don't know if
Again,
I agree with that.
I don't even know which scenes I'm talking about, but I wrote it down at some point.
I
Uh,
mean, there are definitely stylistic differences to where they want to just show each individual character being possessed one at a time, and so there are definitely firm end scenes before they move on to the next one. I wouldn't say it makes it so they don't flow together though.
it just felt like yeah, it very much felt like those scenes were like, oh, this is a scene, and this is also a scene. It wasn't like, oh, this is a movie that flows from one to the next. It's more of like following one character. Okay, let's do the next character. It felt like they were doing a checklist kind of thing.
And that is a movie. So
I, I meant checklist like on the characters. Didn't feel like all the characters together. It felt like they were doing one at a time. If that makes any kind of sense.
well, I mean, you're not wrong. They were doing one at a time, but I think if they had everyone possessed at once, it
No,
would
no, I'm not
be
saying they have to be.
way
I
too
didn't.
insane.
No. I'm not saying they have to be possessed at once, but I felt like I don't even know how to explain this. If it was, it never felt like. So if each character is like a segment, it was one segment followed by another segment. There was never like any overlap. It wasn't like like weaving around each other. It was just like it felt and okay. sometimes linear is good, sometimes I prefer something not as linear or not as, like, cut and dry.
So something I've written
But that's
down
personal preference,
is,
that is personal preference.
and that's fine, that's fine. Something I have written down is something that I liked about this is that it is almost in real time. It's one evening with no real time jumping around once we actually get to the apartment, and it feels like I'm watching 2 hours of an evening. And I do like that. So, okay, without throwing the whole movie out in the trash, if you were to fix this to your liking to make it scary for you, how would you do so?
I would say if the goal is to make it scary, obviously, because I think the main reason is it just it doesn't commit to either being really scary or really funny. I would cut out any comedy. I mean, yeah, you could probably have a joke or 2 sprinkled in a little bit, but once shit starts happening, there should not be comedy. Like, at the beginning when you're meeting the characters and becoming invested in the characters, sure, have a joke or 2 because they are humans, people joke. But
Hmm.
again, once, like, people start getting possessed, I don't think they're gonna be like, let me look at like, stare, like, at this crazy baby sheep that I just stabbed through this person's face. Um, I don't know, I think for me, it comes down to maybe having less characters, but that also means you would have more time with each character to maybe build up a reason why I should care if they get possessed or not.
That's interesting. I
I
mean,
I think.
I I
I mean, I'm
think
just spitballing.
I think you could have done without Danny's character,
Again,
the
which one is
son.
Danny? Okay. Wait,
Danny's the son who
okay.
plays the record. I think you could have
Yeah.
got rid of this of his character and simply have Beth, because she literally works with musical equipment, play the record herself.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like they probably yeah, one at least one less character because I think it's good to have, like, a young child and a semi-older child, that way I don't know, I feel like you need both, but I don't know if you need 2 older kids.
And it's definitely a staple of the series that a bunch of people get possessed throughout the movie. So I don't know if you could take much more of that out and still have it feel like it connects to the other ones.
Sure, sure. Obviously, I think we'd agree that we may change around the cabin part.
I would just take it out. I would still find a way to use that title screen because that title screen's fucking awesome. But
Well, you could do it
I
could
think
be
you
like
take
the
I
silhouette
think
against the city or something.
absolutely, absolutely. I would just take it. I would take that out and use that as the opening scene for, you know, Evil Dead Cabin or whatever the hell you want to call the next one.
Mhm. I would maybe I know if I say maybe less blood, that's like heresy,
I don't know if it's heresy. I feel like
but
less blood doesn't fit with the series.
well, again, I know it's not the series, but I'm just thinking personally what would make it more scary for me is make it more, like, realistic, like, an ocean basically of blood may not be what I think is actually gonna happen kinda thing.
Well, they're demons,
Well,
so
yes, yes, I get that. But that's I mean, roughly all I can think of. Again, maybe it is just not my genre, it's not my kind of movie, but that's all
okay.
I can
Well,
think of.
why don't I clip through some of the things that stuck out to me and that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, yeah, we can talk about
Um,
that.
I love the set design. It looks like a lived-in apartment. It looks sufficiently cluttered to be realistic. You know,
Mhm.
if you have 4 or 5 people all living in an arguably what is a two-bedroom apartment, I think it would look like that. I think that looks very believable.
It looks like
Um,
many apartments that I've been to in Seattle, yes.
1,000%.
It yes.
I think the bank vault being underneath the apartment building is fun. It fits into the kind of look at the camera and wink kind of tone that the other movies had. You know, the apartment's built on top of you know, it's a haunted demon crypt. Because of course it is. I thought that was a lot of fun. I I don't know if I love the new design of this one's Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, because in all the other ones, even the one that isn't made by Sam Raimi, it's a very distinctive look where it has like a stretched out face on it, and this one just kind of just has a skin texture. I do like the teeth on the side though. That's very fun.
Oh, see,
That's
when I
very
saw
cool.
the teeth, and it made me think of
Harry Potter.
yeah, is it Harry Potter? Yeah, I could not think of that. I was like, okay, it's just the Harry Potter book. Cool, cool.
No, I don't know. I do like the lore reason for that though, that they explain when they're listening to the audio. It's like there's actually three books and not just one. So I like the explanation that all the other movies have been dealing with one of the Necronomicon books, and this is just another one. And I think that it's an easy way to help build out other sequels because you can find different books that do other things, kind of in like a vein of the Mummy.
Mm-hmm.
I like some of the sound work in this where they drop out everything and you can hear like nails scratching on wood, singular water droplets in the tub. I don't know.
Some of that I
I
liked.
you can when the mom character is doing her first transformation thing where she's jumping out of the tub and like her spine's all cracking and contorting. That sounds gross and it sounds great.
See, I wrote down, "We get it, dude. Your bones are all crackly," because they use that a lot, and I
Uh,
get that, like, they are forcing a body to do what the body does not want to do, and also the body is dead. I get it. It felt like, I don't know. I felt they could have used slightly less cracking, for lack of a better word, because
what,
I
Duncan? You like
definitely
crack?
noticed that. Well, I'm more of a morphine man, but
Oh yes, that's a callback, folks.
yeah.
Um, So I can see why you say that. I guess to me, that's something that showed up in the other movies. So I was, I was kind of glad that they kept it in. But if I hadn't known that, I think it would probably feel overused. But I enjoyed it.
Like, some of it is fine, but, like, anytime I can never Ellie, whatever the fuck her name is,
The mom,
um, the mom, like, did anything, I was like, "Alright, I'm just gonna hear bones cracking for the next 10 minutes. Cool, cool, cool."
not only that, she yells a lot too.
Sure, Hayden, sure.
I put down that I really like the lighting in this. Just in general, I think it's very effective. It comes across as being creepy. I think all of the strong grays and the strong blues, lots of the orange light that you get in the hallway, I think that looks very very cool. Everything is like dimly lit, but not so dimly lit that it becomes Matt Reeves's is the Batman where you can't see the background sometimes. It's like low light enough to where it feels atmospheric still. I did have written down that Elisa Sutherland, who plays the mom character, just kills it in this. She gets to act crazy and unhinged for the whole 2 hours. She's great. She plays a great demon possessed character. I would absolutely bring her back in some way for another one. She's a lot of fun. Another thing I've written down. So in the elevator when she initially gets possessed and she's like hung up by the electrical cords, I really thought that was going to be worse
Yeah, yeah, I thought similar, yeah.
because in the last one a similar thing happens and the demons rape the girl instead and it shows like
Dude, I definitely thought that was gonna happen. I was like, "They're spreading legs, like, come on."
well I've so I'll circle back to this at the end. I feel like this was probably NC-17 and then they cut it down
Mm, eh,
because in Evil Dead 2013 and also in the Sam Raimi one, the female's character whose name I forget like runs out into the woods because she's being chased by an evil presence and a bunch of like vines grab her. She gets like strung up, spread eagle in the middle of the air, and it shows like this like greasy like spike covered vine like slither up her leg, and it is absolutely implied that she's being raped. And I thought they were going to do that in this, and I had a weird moment where I was like almost disappointed that it didn't happen. Like, not that I want to watch that, but it's such a it happened in all the other ones. I was sort of expecting it.
yeah, I'm not one to be like, "We need this in a movie," but it
Well,
definitely
I
felt
I
like
don't
that's
want
the
to
way they
say
were
that
going.
either, but I was just I don't know. I thought they were going to do that. I'm not saying I want to watch that. The shot of her in the kitchen like smashing eggs that start bleeding a lot where it's like they have half of her face on the one half of the screen and on the other half of the screen they have the family members and there's like a bit of camera trickery to make them both fit there. I thought that was very cool looking. And then so Ellie dies essentially, and then they put her in the bed, and then there's a whole bit where she like her spirit calls the phone. That shit was unsettling to me. Like, I'm good. That's creepy. I also liked how they made Ellie move. It's almost like stop motion, and it really helped sell the she's being puppeted by a demon kind of thing. I thought that was very interesting, and I think that also comes across when Bridget is like kind of flying around the room because someone else is moving her body around. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I can see how there are only so many different things that a horror movie can do. If that's spiders, if that's demon, like, there are so many. I mean, they've been around long enough to where like the it's her if it's Bridget, the tattoo face chick, right? Uh,
Uh, yes,
right? Okay.
yes.
When she is on the counter and then she like spider crawls off. I don't know. It was very much like a very poignant moment where I was like, okay, they're doing the like clamoring on all fours towards you scary trick. Like it works, and I get why. Obviously, there are certain things that almost all like. There's a reason why blood works. There's a reason why dismemberment or whatever. But uh, maybe it's because I don't want to feel invested in it that it's so easy for me to be like, "Oh, they're doing the thing that that other thing did."
That's
I don't know.
okay. I think if you're willing to buy into the movie's premise, you're less likely to see old tricks being reused, and that's just a personal thing, and that's all right. Speaking of that scene, the whole bit where Bridget has like black goop pouring out of her face. I wonder how they did that because there are moments where she's like wiping it from her eyes, so it's clearly parts of that are a practical effect, but then obviously you're not going to have, blood flowing out of someone's eyes in real life. There are probably parts of that are CGI, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, how are they doing this? That's super like the compositing, putting those two things together, the practical of the CGI. It's done really well because I can't find the visual seam in it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I think of the what's the guy's like the most ridiculous Javier Bardem bit from Pirates of the Caribbean. You know which one I'm talking about?
Javier Bardem ridiculous bit from Dead Men Tell No Tales.
The Captain Salazar, and he's just got like black goop everywhere.
I blocked so much of that movie from my memory because it was
Well, I
bad.
mean, good reason. It's shit.
It's
But it
it's
made me
awful.
think of that. And yes, I'm sure very similarly some of it's real, but I bet a lot of that is done in post. And they probably tell her like, "Hey, you're gonna have stuff coming out of your eyes. You need to wipe it off," or whatever it
Well,
is.
I don't know. It's just like there. Some of it also clearly ends up on her fingers, so I just got to remember. Okay, like, does she have like little like tubes or something where she has like it on her hands already? I don't know. It's just I was impressed with how well that was hidden. If that's how they did that. Just a couple scenes of the violence that like genuinely made me cringe. The whole glass swallowing thing, I fucking hated that. That's the moment where I had to pause it and take like a lap around my room and look at a meme on my phone or something. Like, oh, I hate that so much.
Oh, see, I think part of that scene is when I kind of checked out, so I don't even know if I saw that bit, to be honest. Like I saw her eating it. I don't know if I saw her swallowing it.
She swallows it, and then it cuts to a close up on her neck, and you can see it start to poke through her skin, which I think is a practical effect when they're just using like a rubber neck. But it looks really realistic, and I just hated looking at that, which is good. You want that in this kind of a movie, but just like hated that. Also, the fucking cheese grater thing. Where again, Bridget picks it up off the counter while Beth is trying to crawl away, and she slaps it onto her calf and like grates into her leg. It's a great practical effect, but Jesus Christ, I hated watching that. Like that's again, it's the kind of reaction you want for this movie, but I hated looking at that.
I find it so odd, Hayden, that you have these like, oh, I hated watching it, but then when you have said in the past like, oh, I want to watch a movie that's lighter, or I don't want to watch like a
I
heavy movie. I'm like, dude, why would you want to fucking watch this shit? What? It doesn't make
I
any fucking
think
sense to
there's
me.
a okay, I don't know if I would want to watch a movie like this every day for the rest of my life.
No, but I'm saying
You
you'd
know,
rather
I
watch
certainly
this than
don't
something that is, like, emotionally heavy versus, like, gore
a
heavy?
hundred. I would rather watch a gore heavy movie than watch something that's gonna be depressing to me. I think that's a different kind of horror, and I'd rather watch the gore.
Yes, again, I think this is very much where you and I differ because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I'd much rather, like, watch some depressing ass, like, romance movie than
Clearly.
any kind of something like this."
That's fine. It th that's fine, but that is certainly correct, yes. And then the last couple things I have down here is I do think Cassie, like the nine-year-old, not having kind of any reaction to at all to impaling Bridget through the mouth with a pike is a little bit unrealistic. Like, she should be crying, she should be freaking out, she should, like, at the very least, act like she cared that she just murdered her sister. It is a little bit out of place, I think, but, that's a small thing, like, character beat wise.
Yeah, she did seem kind of I don't wanna say deadpan after that, but she did seem kind of blank.
I do think that you can chalk that out. Okay, maybe that character is in shock the rest of the movie, which, yeah, okay, fine. And then, in much the same way that there is an ending scene in Alien Romulus this past year with a freaky ass creature coming out and being very different to everything else we saw in the other parts of the movie, the freaky ass creature that shows up at the end of this movie is, I think, divisive. I don't know if I actually enjoyed that. I maybe would have preferred, like, a more obvious final showdown between Beth and Ellie, like the undead Ellie character. It would have, where she's still holding the chainsaw, but you're fighting like the true demon Ellie. I think that would be more interesting, but it does also, if you keep in like the John Carpenter Thing monster, I think that pays off having the obvious shot of the wood chipper in the start of the movie. So I could see why it's there, but for like a more character driven, emotional, punchy finale, you have Beth more deliberately killing her sister. I think that would be better, I think. But on a whole, those are small quibbles of mine. Absolutely loved this. In fact, I have Amazon open in a separate tab. I'm just gonna buy myself a copy.
Okay, well, I think that's everything I had, and is that everything you had?
Um, I think no, no. I think I may have already mentioned this, but I wrote down it would not shock me if this was originally NC-17. I think the amount of just the sheer amount of blood and gore, especially towards the end, like, with the freaking chainsaw going through someone's scalp and you see it on screen for like 20 to 30 seconds, it felt like really extreme. And I think the only thing that keeps this from being an NC-17 is that there's no nudity. There's no real, like, sexual content at all, which is arguably a staple of the horror genre, but definitely not this franchise.
Gotcha.
I do have a final question to you, though. Um, what do you think the title of this movie means? Because I don't know. I would genuinely want to rename this because I don't think the rise has anything to do with anything that happens.
I mean, besides rising from the downstairs of the apartment to the top, not really anything, to be honest.
I mean, I was gonna tangentially say, okay, maybe they're living in a high rise, and that's how it makes sense. I don't know. It feels like a studio choice to name it this. Like, you could have gone another way. I don't know. Maybe go like Evil Dead Family or something like that. And I don't think Rise makes any sense.
Evil Dead City, Evil Dead.
I mean, you could have just gone, like fucking Evil Dead 3 or Evil Dead 2 because the other ones are numbered.
Yeah. I mean,
I
again,
don't
I
know.
think the title looks great, but
Oh, yeah, I freaking love that title card. I think we've said it a number of times now, but that's such a great image.
well, I think if you haven't seen Evil Dead Rise, watch it and give us an opinion. Maybe watch the other ones if that's something you actually have interest in.
I'm going to interject just some opinions on that, just because if you want to watch Evil Dead Rise and you want to get more of a taste for this series like tone and what you might expect in this, you should watch the Evil Dead 2013 or watch Evil Dead 2 with Bruce Campbell from like the 80s. And those are a lot more of the vibe you might expect. Just because, as Duncan experienced, if you go into this blind, you might just be confused a lot.
It's not that I was confused. I just granted because this one, from what you've said and from what I've read, is it is fairly different from like the originals.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, it's definitely different in its setting, but a lot of the same, like, demon possession stuff still happens.
I just meant like the tone of maybe more comedy or maybe less that kind of thing is what I meant.
I mean, compared to the 2013 one, there is more comedy, but compared to the Sam Raimi ones, there's actually less.
No, no, that's what I'm saying is like the originals are way more comedic.
Yeah,
Either way.
if you're interested in watching this, maybe peruse the other ones and see if that might be more your speed first, is all I'd say.
Well, now that we've talked about the movie, folks, we've given our rating, we've given our suggestions on what to watch it. Also, by the way, this is on HBO Max. That's where we saw it. You can watch it there. Uh, Before we wrap, we usually, if we can remember, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, try to do an icebreaker audio section, basically making us more human to your ears and eyes and thoughts. We're not just two talking heads.
Hey,
Uh,
I might be a robot, you don't know.
we have already made that joke. Uh,
And it's still funny.
and I only hear one of us laughing. Yes.
It's
So
funny to me.
this is where we pick a random like icebreaker question from Google that you might hear if you started a new school or go to a new job. It's just to get us more acquainted with you, the audience, and vice versa.
And today's icebreaker audio is, what is a common misconception about your job?
Well, I work two jobs, and for my main one that at least is not a passion, but it actually pays the bills, where I kind of manage slash bartend at a bougie movie theater restaurant thing. Uh, no, I do not get to drink all the things that I make. No, I do not know what you want. You need to tell me what you want so I can make it.
I feel like I feel like this is a very pointed answer.
Just the amount my I okay, so some bartenders will like to have a conversation and like get to know you. That is not me. I want you to tell me what you want. I'm going to make it very efficiently. It's going to taste good, and then I want to move on to the next person.
Yeah, see, I feel like
So
I'm annoying at the bar,
so
especially if there's like no one else there.
indecision is what I don't like. Or people's main one is like, "Oh, what kind of drink do you like?" I'm like, "I'm not the one drinking. What kind of drink do you like? You should be telling me like, "Oh, I like a sweet drink," or "I like a liquor forward." You should be telling me these things. I don't give a fuck what I think. Like, okay. So that's one job. And of course, I don't say any of this and I don't express these kind of outward thoughts while I work because I'm a professional, but I will definitely judge and talk shit. But my other job, where I'm either a dive instructor for scuba stuff or working in a zoo as a dive safety person, uh, no, I will not teach you to dive for free. That is a big one. Holy shit. The amount of
Wait,
like
really?
people who are, dude, the amount of either like friends, friends of friends, the amount of like opening lines that people have used on like dating apps where they're like, "Can you teach me to dive?" Winky face. I'm like, well, I'm just never gonna respond to you. Uh, that is much more of a passion. Yes, I paid a shit ton of money to get to the point where I can teach it very well.
Oh, that's
Um,
fine.
that's just a little irk. But I also get asked like, "Oh, is it cold down there?" Yes, it's fucking cold down there. Oh, do you see? Is there anything to see? If there was nothing to see, I wouldn't fucking do it. What?
Well, to be
What the
fair,
shit?
having dived around Seattle, granted a good 15 years ago, sometimes you can't see shit.
There's always stuff to see. It's just sometimes harder to find. Yes, but like, yes, there's harbor seals, there's octopus, there's fish, there's uh anemones, and that's just cold water. There's stuff all over the world. Like, And I know it's just because I'm in that industry and other people are not, so they obviously are not privy to the information that I've amassed over the last, I don't know, 8, 9 years or whatever the fuck it's been. But there's some obvious ones like, "Oh, can you see down there?" And yes, it's obviously like the visibility's not great, but I'm like, if I couldn't see, I probably wouldn't go diving. Or if it's too cold, like, again, I probably wouldn't go diving. Um, all right, I think that's my quick little ramble about my jobs.
Hey, that's fine.
Uh,
That's what the questions are for.
yeah, and I
So
and I would just quickly preface that I am not bitter about either any profession that I am in. I just want to say that to make sure that's not coming across that way. That's all.
I'm sensing bitterness.
Everyone has, good moments and not.
Sure.
If you're a shitty customer, you're a
Um,
shitty customer.
so I've done warehousing work for a very long time now. It's I don't know if I would say that I enjoy it, but it's what I'm good at this point. I would say the common assumptions about um doing warehousing work is that everyone assumes it's like still in the 40s and oh, do the lights go out sometimes? You have to, is it dusty? Is it dirty? Do you come home and have to like wash grease off your hands? No, man. It's very clean. Like it is very safe. It is very clean. I think that I will sometimes get the questions of like, oh, are you over there and you're drag racing your forklifts around? I'm like, I don't think you understand just how slow some of these go. Plus, like there are built-in like speed locks. Like you physically can't make it go faster than like 5 miles an hour. I don't know. I think people see a lot of forklifting memes and they assume it's a lot more interesting or fun than it actually like no, have you driven a sit down lawnmower? It's the same thing. It is literally the same thing. I would say so maybe it's not a full-time job, but I will occasionally sell artwork on the side, and I think the assumptions I get on that end are usually A, can you do this for free? Which the answer is no and fuck off, although I don't say that to them. Um, and then B, it's a sentiment of, oh, I could never do that. I can only ever do stick figures. I'm like, you don't need to insult yourself to try to compliment something I'm doing. It comes across as very weird. It comes across as like I don't know what to say to that, man. Like, okay, no, you definitely could. Talent is not a thing that exists. It's just practice. It's all it is.
Yeah.
It's all it is. Um,
Talent is, interest pursued, I think is the, Bob Ross quote.
Yes, absolutely. I was gonna say I couldn't remember what the fucking quote was, but that is 100% what that is. It doesn't exist, you know, and I guess those are the two misconceptions that people have about either one of those things. Well, that's sort of our icebreaker audio done for this episode. Do we want to briefly run down anything we've watched recently that we haven't already talked about for this episode?
Sure, I mean, I don't know how much other stuff you've watched though, Hayden. Well, what have you watched recently? Or plan to watch or are looking forward to, anything like that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I did rewatch the other Evil Dead 2013, as well as I saw Army of Darkness in theaters as a rebroadcast on Halloween. Me and you were recently down at our parents and we rewatched Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. That's a lot of fun. And I think what I'm looking forward to watching, I'd like to watch Heretic, which is a Hugh Grant like suspense movie about Mormons. I think I don't know. It's an A24 thing. It looks interesting, and then also cinema is back on the menu. Paddington in Peru is coming out November the 5th. I've literally already bought my tickets.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm as pumped as you are for that, if I'm being honest. Not that the other 2 are not good. Um, I can't remember which of these movies recently that you and I have talked about or not, but, I watched the Zendaya tennis erotica challengers. Was
Oh, you watched
surprisingly very.
the Twink threesome movie?
They're not, I mean, they are kinda twinks, but, uh, it was actually really okay, so the relationship stuff aside, which is most of the movie, sure, Uh, they picked like this electro like dance music as the
Oh, I've
soundtrack.
heard some of the music as an aside myself. Fucking banger, dude.
Well, A, it's banger, but like setting that with tennis is actually I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome, dude. Because they do a lot of cool cinematography choices. Like from the ball's point of view, from the racket, and then at one point uh they put cameras literally like underneath the court. So it's looking up like see through the court. It's really fucking cool.
That's interesting.
Um
I was gonna say that is that music. Is that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross?
oh, definitely, definitely. I have no idea.
I I was gonna say I can't tell if you're fucking with me right now.
Yeah, I have no
I'm
fucking
just
clue, dude.
it's the same people who show up in a lot of David Fincher movies. They also have the small underground band Nine Inch Nails, so that would absolutely
Hmm.
track if they made that kind of music.
I don't know. So after I knew you had watched Comet, I turned off my Paramount Plus subscription because it was like it's like well, it's like $6 a month, and there's not that much on there that I would actually watch.
I did look
So
around there
my
briefly. I'm like, "Oh, there's a lot of Star Trek here, but also I already own a lot of Star Trek,
well,
so
see, that's the thing. I have not seen like any of this Star Trek stuff. So the last 2 days, because okay, my subscription ends in like 10 days because I already paid through I think like November 15th or something like that.
sure.
I'm just watching. So like yesterday, I did the first movie, the Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
It's
Kind of meh.
okay.
It's
It,
okay.
it it's okay. The other ones are better.
I just literally like before we started this call, I finished Wrath of Khan, and that's fucking dope, dude. That's a good movie.
Wrath of Khan is a fucking classic. It's excellent.
It's it's just him quoting
S-
like Shakespeare the whole fucking time.
Yeah, well, that's Kirk for you.
No, no, no.
I am
That's
a
Khan. Khan is fucking doing Shakespeare
oh
stuff.
well, they kind of both do it, but
Either way,
yeah.
I very much enjoyed that.
Which versions do they have? Because I bought like nice remastered versions with like new special effects and everything. Do they have the old ones?
No, they've got the remastered stuff, or at
Okay.
least for the original.
Yes.
I don't know about Wrath of Khan, but so
It
I
probably
am
did.
probably gonna watch the other. I don't know. There's like two or three more of them that I'll probably watch before the subscription runs out.
Oh, there's like 6.
What I'm looking forward to, I would say I am. So I'm still looking forward to Gladiator 2. Some people have said, like from early screenings, like some of the special effects and stuff, some of the stuff in the Coliseum do not look great. I'm still looking forward to it.
I
Um,
want it to be good. It's just
I want it
it's
to be good.
such a high bar to reach. The original Gladiator is I think we've mentioned before, like that's like a perfect movie. I don't know if you want to tarnish that reputation with a sequel.
I'm not that excited for Craven, I will say. I don't really give a shit. I don't
Is
give a shit about
anyone?
Sonic.
I will probably go watch Sonic 3 in theaters. I am that person.
Or even like
I saw the other 2 in theaters as well. I enjoy them.
I know Wicked is coming and I don't really give a shit. Like not like as in it's bad, but I don't care. I know it's a big Broadway
Yeah,
thing. I know
I've heard
it's
some of
gonna
the
be
original
like
music, like
it's
the
a
Broadway music is good, but I don't care to watch it in theaters.
and this is it's like because we're gonna show it at my work. We've already been selling like crazy amounts of tickets for it, which is great. But it's a 2 hour 45 minute movie, and it's only a part one. I don't
Yeah,
care.
that's the crazy part to me. Like the play is not that long. You definitely could have just done this in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, but they could make more money.
That's very true. Speaking of, me and you watched Joker 2. Do we want to talk about that at all?
We should talk at least a little bit about that. I mean, we can cut this together however we want, but I think it's worth at least talking a little bit about because I know we both had clear opinions on it.
I think we both have very similar opinions on it, but yes, we did.
So to preface this, folks, everyone really liked the first one. I mean, it made crazy amounts of money. Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar. That's what they started with, and there's
They
lots of
decided,
people who showed
hey,
this.
we made a great movie. Let's not do that for the second one.
Well, it's too. I think I talked about this on my other podcast, Dunk's Movie Corner Pod. but it's the spectrum of how much creative control to give someone. Where like on one
Yeah,
side you have like the DCEU, where the studio was a little too heavy-handed, and then on the other side of the spectrum is this, where Joaquin Phoenix and I can never remember his name, Todd
Todd
Phillips,
Phillips.
they had way too much creative control, I think, but they never committed to either this is a drama or this is a musical. Which why the fuck did they even have a musical besides just Lady Gaga?
I mean, not to overstate everyone's opinion on this movie, it would have been fine if it wasn't a musical. If you took all the musical elements out of it and just made it a straight drama, it would still not be as good as the first one, but it wouldn't be this monumental failure that everyone knows it is now.
I will say though that we had lots of people like literally walk out of the theater mid-show like because it was it was not that bad. It was bad, but it wasn't like the worst. Like I need to get up and leave. There's a
Yeah,
lot of a lot of the cinematography was actually really nice. There was
like
some of the
it still
stuff with Lady.
looked good.
Yeah, it did still look good. It just narrative wise, it was rough.
I think taken in a vacuum, the songs aren't bad. I just don't think it enhances the movie to have them.
No, like there's like I've listened. There's a couple of the songs from the soundtrack that I actually have saved on my Spotify because they're actually good songs where Lady Gaga actually gets to flex and show that she actually can sing, not
Oh
like
yeah,
this like
I mean, they had to do
whispery,
like
throaty thing they did.
yeah, they had to do like this like weird like breathy kind of talking, kind of singing the whole time, so we can claim that she's acting and not just singing. That's such a weird choice. And like, also the movie opens with like a 5 minute hand drawn cartoon. The fucking why? It's so
Yeah.
weird. Why do this?
Again,
Like
this is where they had a
it's
crazy big crazy big budget, and they're like, okay, well, we can kind of do whatever we want. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't.
yeah, it's just like I don't know, like that whole cartoon thing. It's there to like catch you up if you haven't seen the first Joker. Who's
Hmm.
going to Joker 2 without watching the first Joker? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, that I mean that is the whole point of it. But yes,
I don't know. I didn't hate it as much as I thought, but I definitely still hated it.
yeah, I it's one of those. It's not so bad that it's watchable, like fun to watch, but it wasn't so. It I don't think I'm ever gonna rewatch that.
No, never. I will say I don't think it was bad enough to where I would walk out because obviously we didn't. But if I didn't know what I was in for, like, and if I didn't know it was going to be a musical and I saw this on opening night, I probably would have actually. I think I would have left.
I don't think I would have left, but I would have been pissed. I find it very hard to leave a movie early. That seems crazy to me, regardless of what the movie is.
Yeah, see, I now that I'm thinking back, I'm trying to think, okay, have I ever actually walked out of a movie? And I don't know that I
I never
have.
have.
And I've sat through some real shit sometimes. Like
Sure. Well,
Lamb
it just
from A24 from a couple years ago. This is god
uh-huh.
awful. I genuinely fell asleep.
Well, I think that's everything that we have watched, are going to watch. Uh our reviews on Joker, our review on Evil Dead Rise. We have spun our picker wheel for what we're watching next. It was Birds
We
of
are
Prey.
watching Birds of Prey. Yes.
Yes. But yeah, so
Well,
tune in next week for that, folks.
remember to hit that like, hit that subscribe, tell your friends, share us around, and we will talk to you guys again next episode.